Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are Donor Egg Bank USA, and tonight we're going to talk about donor egg IVF and what to know. And we're really just excited to be speaking with you guys tonight about something we're really passionate about, donor eggs. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Becca Murillo, and I was an IVF fertility nurse for 11 years. And I sat with many patients, held their hand, and talked about starting a family with donor eggs. And I also want to introduce our Donor Egg Bank's co-founder and executive vice president, Heidi Hayes. And Heidi Hayes is joining us tonight. She's not only going to help inform you about the use of donor egg, but also share a personal story on how she came to use donor eggs to complete her family.
Thank you, Becca. Nice to see everybody tonight. We're excited to get started. Take us away.
So we do have we are going to answer some questions after the webinar is over. And if you can please use the Q&A button to submit those questions, and they are all anonymous. We also received some emails before the presentation, and so we will email you directly and answer all those questions for you. So be looking for an email back if you did email us some questions. We'll be happy to help answer that for you. So let's get started. So our objectives this evening include coming to terms with the diagnosis. So for many, this is the hardest step. Some of you may have known about using donor eggs would be the best success for you. You may have known this for quite some time. For others, maybe this is a recent diagnosis. Maybe this is something that you just heard about last month or even last week. So I want to pause here and just say wherever you are in your journey, however you're feeling is completely okay. Everyone goes through different emotions when talking about these diagnoses and what the treatment plan is for you moving forward. Some of you are excited and ready to move forward. Others may be scared or even sad and unsure. And so these are just really normal emotions. And so I just want to make sure that you embrace that and know that you're not alone, number one, and number two, that it's okay however you're feeling. And I want to encourage you really to talk with your partner, talk with your physician, ask all those questions that you have so that you get these answers and you feel confident moving forward and taking that next step in your journey. I also want to mention that many clinics do have a coach or a counselor, a wellness coach, and I would encourage you to talk to him or her and help navigate these emotions that you're feeling and these common fears too that go along with the process. We're also going to talk about what are the first steps in choosing a donor. How do I choose a donor? What do I look for? Also mapping out a game plan. What does that look like? What are the financial plans? And what does the timing look like? And then looking towards the future.
Let me go ahead and get us started. What you're seeing right here is just a picture of my husband and I, probably like some of you out there. You know, we thought it would be easy to get pregnant. We actually started this process in our early 30s, thinking it would just happen naturally. But we weren't prepared for the fact that it didn't happen naturally and that we would go through a total of 11 IVF cycles and frozen embryo transfers unsuccessfully and with 2 miscarriages. We were devastated and not sure what we wanted to do to build our family. So we decided to turn to an adoption. This is us at the airport with our son. We're bringing him home. We adopted through Guatemala at the time, and we were just ecstatic to finally have a baby in our arms. You know, we felt like this was what we wanted, and we had this belief that adoption was a sure thing to help us be parents. So we decided to go back and get baby number 2. And this is my daughter, and she was just beautiful. We were ecstatic to have a boy and a girl. Is exactly what we wanted. We went to Guatemala for her as well, since the process worked so well. Here you can see my son, he's a little bit older, and we're just spending time with her while we were in the process. We got to see her, we were there for her first birthday, we laughed with her, and we loved her. And then what you're seeing here is actually the very last time I ever saw her. We tracked this adoption for a total of 6 years before we heard from Homeland Security that the adoption was not going to go through. During the time period that we were in the adoption, some of the laws had changed, but what we learned in the process is that adoption, well, it's really a great thing. It wasn't a sure thing, and that birth mothers do change their mind, and sometimes adoptions don't work. And we were literally heartbroken. So we found ourselves with this decision point again. You know, we knew that we wanted more children, and we weren't quite sure how to go about it. You know, we felt like failures, honestly. We felt like we'd failed IVF, we'd failed adoption. Like, what else was there? And so we turned to egg donation. It is something early on in the process, after all of our failed IVF, that our fertility practice told us that we should consider using an egg donor. But I just really believed if it wasn't going to work with my eggs when I was 30, what would make me think that it would work with someone else's eggs? So I really believed the problem was me, and that the adoption is what would get us through. But after having the failed adoption, it really caused me to take pause and to reconsider. And so we went through an analysis. And what we looked at first were the costs. With adoption, there's a lot of hidden costs in home studies and fingerprints, trips to the courthouse, trips to the State Department to get seals on everything, and every seal that cost you $25. It was an expensive process. And at the end of the day, it was, about the same amount as an egg donor cycle. And in that time period, really, you could only do a 1-to-1 program in which you chose one egg donor. And those costs ran anywhere between $40,000 to $50,000, and, basically an adoption as well. What we came to learn is that 10 to 20% of all adoptions do fail. And they fail for a variety of reasons, but partially because birth mothers have that chance to change their mind. With an egg donor, we could have more control in the process. Whereas with the adoption, if we went domestic, we would create a life book and we'd be waiting for someone to choose us. We also knew that with one child, we were even less selectable than if we had none. But we were really putting ourselves in a waiting game, hoping to be likable enough to be chosen by a birth mother. With the adoption, we waited many years to determine if it would go through. And even after the baby's born, there is, in every state, there is a time that the birth mother can make a different decision. What I did like about egg donation is not only was I in control of the process and would make the choice about the egg donor, but once the embryo was transferred, it was the dreaded 2-week wait, but it was 2 weeks. And I really felt like I could get through that. I like the fact that I would have the opportunity to be pregnant and to carry the baby. At the time, I didn't think pregnancy would be all that exciting. Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. The opportunity to feel the baby kick, to bond with that baby in utero, is really a phenomenal opportunity in comparison to trying to bond with a baby much after the fact. And it really, I think, helps with that process of, being at that point where you'd be willing to jump in front of a car to save your child. And that's when you've completely bonded.
So let's talk about some of the reasons for egg donation. Decreased ovarian function. So this is the decrease in the quality or the quantity of your eggs. Premature ovarian failure is a reduction in the function of the ovaries under the age of 40. So sometimes this is caused by genetic factors or even an autoimmune disorder. Genetic abnormalities, maybe you have a family history of genetic disease or abnormalities. And failure of other treatments. Many of you have gone through fertility treatments. Maybe you've gone through IUIs or IVFs, and some without success. Or maybe you have gotten pregnant and you've suffered a pregnancy loss. And Donor Egg Bank is all encompassing, servicing our LGBTQ+ community. So why do donor eggs work? Well, women are born with all the eggs we are ever going to have. And as we age, our ovarian reserve diminishes. Our peak fertility actually occurs during our 20s and early 30s. And then we start to see a rapid decline starting around the age of 30. So where you saw on that last slide, the downward trend, here you see that upward trend, because what this is showing, this graph shows that as you become less young, that the miscarriage rate actually increases. And most miscarriages do occur because of chromosomally abnormal pregnancies. So what are some of the advantages of using frozen donor eggs? Well, you will receive 5 to 8 mature eggs that are already frozen and ready to ship. And the reason we have them in a range versus a specific number is because every woman provides mature eggs in different numbers. And we've used an algorithm to ensure that we're only using the best mature eggs. And when you look at our website and you look at the donor profiles, you can see exactly how many eggs come with that donor. There's no need for synchronization with the donor. So with the fresh cycle, typically your clinic would want to stimulate the donor and prepare your uterus and try to synchronize. And with frozen donor eggs, you don't have to do that. These eggs are already frozen, they're already ready to go. So there's no chance that your donor is going to drop out in the process. You don't have to worry about her missing a medication or not triggering on time or her taking off to go to her best friend's wedding. These donor eggs are already available. And you do have a wider selection when you go through a frozen donor egg bank. We have over 300 donors on our website, and you can control the timing. So when it's convenient for you, you can start your process. This is also really great for gestational carriers, and it's less expensive than a fresh donor cycle.
So I love this slide. Really, Marsha Cross, I felt was so open. When we take a look at what's going on in Hollywood and we see these women, well over the age of 40, and they're having these beautiful babies, and it just happens so naturally for them. Let's not deceive ourselves, because it's not happening naturally. Just like Becca said, as we get older, our eggs get older as well. And I like what Marsha Cross said. I don't like the average woman being misled into thinking that fertility is something that goes on forever. When a woman gets older, they get donor eggs, which doesn't make the baby any less beautiful or perfect. One's own eggs only last so long. So I really applaud Marsha Cross for her openness, her willing to come out and talk about using donor egg, because I want that for my children too. I want us to be open and proud of the fact that we utilize donor egg. So, will this treatment work? It is really successful. And it is one of the things that really encouraged me when I considered using donor egg. So first of all, you're going to see our stats here, 2019, 2020, and our all-time statistics. There has been a learning curve. We launched this company in 2012. We have performed a lot of different transfers, but in 2020, we were averaging about 6 eggs per warming. Someone did ask, can we get more eggs other than the 5 to 8? Yes, you can. You can get a discount on a subsequent egg lot from us, but we do try to have a certain number of eggs in an egg lot. And that's just to ensure that there's no egg from the donor that will go to waste, because the donor has given up a lot in order to go through this process. The pregnancy rate is over 70%. But what's really important is that clinical pregnancy rate. Clinical pregnancy is when you go into the physician and they do an OB ultrasound and they see a gestational sac and a heartbeat. That's really what we're shooting for. After that clinical pregnancy rate, there's very little miscarry opportunity, albeit it does happen. So 69% of our cycles will have additional embryos that are frozen so that you can try an extra time. The miscarry rate, which is a normal part of life. And then you have that ongoing rate per transfer, which is over 50% in 2020. So it is very successful, especially if you persevere and you stick with it. We will get 92% of individuals pregnant and to a delivery.
Sorry. I love that you share that, Heidi, because many don't know that using an egg donor is the highest success rate in all of the therapies and treatments for IVF. So let's talk about choosing a donor and how hard is it to find a donor. So I just want to let you know that you have access to our donor database. You can look 24/7. You can, it's, you know, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you want to check out the donors, you are more than welcome to do so. And I just want to share with you that these donors, these young ladies do go through extensive testing and screening. And for every 100 applications received, only 1 to 2 donors actually make it to retrieval. So this gives you a really good idea of the thorough screening and testing that they go through, as well as the dedication in making it through the process. All of the donors go through a genetic screening and testing, a multi-generational family history review. They do have their medical history and their fertility health assessed. There must be non-smokers. They go through a drug screening, several infectious disease screenings, and they also meet with the mental health specialist. So all of them go through psychological screening and counseling.
So let me also add that typically we've had around 350 egg donors on our database. You know, with the slowdown of COVID, and there has just been a boom of individuals interested in fertility treatment, we've been hovering around 250 donors. So if you find a donor that you like, I highly recommend you go ahead and select that donor. We do give you a little bit of time to sleep on the donor, make sure that you're comfortable with that donor, but the donors are moving very quickly. So let's talk a little bit about how do you go about selecting the donor. You know, my first advice to you is enjoy the process. You know, make this something that's memorable, that you're going to tell your children one day about the night that you chose their egg donor. You know, plan to match most of the important things on your list, but also recognize that there's no mini you out there. And so you're not going to match everything that's important. There's no perfect donor out there, and there's no perfect you out there. We all have our flaws somewhere along the line. You know, plan to make some compromise on some of those lesser issues. I like to tell people to look for the intellectual potential and not necessarily for the college degree that you want this donor to have. You know, these are young women, and it may vary depending on if they've had access to be able to go to college or how old they are or even what their dream is. That's what you're looking for when you go through the profile. Remember that everyone has their imperfections, and so do you. What I like to do when I went through our donor is I do not sing well. It's been kind of a source of embarrassment for me all these years, and my husband doesn't sing well either. So we took our imperfections and we looked for a donor that can sing. That was important to me, and I wanted my children to be able to sing. You know, my children now sing in the shower quite loudly, but at least they're on tune. And then also know that if it's important to you to match the blood type, only if you are not going to tell your children that they are donor conceived. It is not medically necessary to match the blood type. We highly recommend that you be open with children that you have, that you utilized an egg donor, because with the DNA databases right now, it's highly likely that eventually they will learn that they were donor conceived.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the financial plans. Our first is the single egg lot plan. So in this plan, you would receive 5 to 8 mature eggs. The cost for this plan is $14,500 US dollars, and it guarantees 1 or more blastocyst embryo. Our double egg lot plan is where we combine 2 egg lots together. And in this combined egg lot, we're guaranteeing at least 2 blastocysts within that combined set of eggs. The cost is $27,500 US dollars, and you'll see here that you do actually get a discount on that second lot.
And I should just add, from time to time, we have people that want 3 egg lots. We've had someone take 4 egg lots. With each additional egg lot, it is still the same $1,500 off. And with every egg lot added, we do add another blastocyst to that guarantee.
So while we're not big proponents of PGTA, we do realize that sometimes patients do request to do genetic testing on the embryos, or maybe there's a reason that your physician has requested it. So we did come up with this euploid guarantee rider that can be purchased separately. The cost is $4,800 US dollars, and it can be added to either our single or our double egg lot plan. And this guarantees 1 or more euploid embryos with up to 3 egg lots. So let's move into our bundled programs, where we combine the cost of the eggs with the treatment. So we will work with your physician and your clinic to decrease the cost of the eggs and the treatment and come up with one low cost upfront cost that's more reasonable for you. Another benefit to this plan is that the treatment and the eggs are both protected. And what I mean by that is if for some reason the egg lot did not perform well, or maybe a transfer didn't occur because there was poor fertilization and there wasn't a blastocyst and your cycle was canceled. If you were in a single or a double egg lot plan, you would likely be responsible for that additional payment to do treatment again with your clinic. But in this plan, that treatment is guaranteed. And the cost of this plan does vary because every clinic and physician has a different, charges differently. But if you contact us, we can let you know exactly what your clinic charges for this plan. And in this plan, again, it's a one-time attempt in which all the services and the egg lot is combined together. It's one reduced plan cost, and it guarantees 1 or more blastocyst embryos and the treatment.
So let me just chime in here real quick, just to say this. If you are going to a fertility practice that offers a single cycle plan, be sure to contact us and ask for that price. You will find that it is almost always, I want to say 99% going to be much less expensive than acquiring just eggs and paying for treatment separately.
So let's move into the assured refund plan, which is my personal favorite of mine. When I was working as a nurse in the IVF clinic, I had many patients that I worked with and walked through their journey with. And I have to say that when they were enrolled in this plan, there was a sigh of relief on my end, because I knew that they were protected as much as they could be. And when they were enrolled in this program, I knew that they had multiple opportunities to try for pregnancy, and that donor egg bank would be carrying the financial risk. So in this assured refund plan, it does provide a safety net that if you don't come home with a baby, that you will receive 100% of your money back. So this plan offers up to 6 egg lots with unlimited frozen embryo transfers. So not only does this plan protect you while you go through treatment at your clinic, but it also protects you against miscarriages or late-term pregnancy loss. This is a program that you will need to qualify for, but I'll tell you that 95% of the patients that apply do qualify, and 92% bring home a baby. So if you want to learn more about this program, or you would like to know the cost, again, it's different across the different clinics, but we're happy to provide you with the cost at your particular clinic, and you just need to contact us and we'll be happy to do that for you. I also want to mention that if you choose to withdraw from the program, that you will receive 50% of your money back. So we did find that some physicians preferred to keep the eggs and the treatment separate, and that some patients did have insurance that covered treatment. So we wanted to create a plan that still offered a live birth guarantee. So this is where we came up with the multi-egg lot refund plan. In this plan, it's very similar to the assured refund with a couple of key differences. In this plan, you will receive up to 4 egg lots, and it does come with the live birth guarantee. So if you do not come home with the baby, you will receive 100% of your money back. The cost of this plan is $30,000 US, which really is the cost of 2 egg lots. But you get the live birth guarantee and the guarantee of that full refund if you do not bring home a baby after 4 egg lot cycles. Similar to assured refund, this is a program that you would need to qualify for. But again, this is a very simple process. We work with your clinic to gather your medical records, and an evaluation form is filled out by your clinic and sent in for the medical reviewer to review. And so it's a very simple process. And again, just keep in mind that 95% of those that apply do qualify for the program.
So Becca, before you move on, let me just make this point. The cost is $30,000. This is the cost of 2 separate egg lots, and that's it. But my gosh, it guarantees you a baby and gives you multiple tries. And if you aren't successful, you get all your money back. So if you're in a program that you can do assured refund, we highly recommend it. But if you're not, multi-egg lot refund plan is your next best bet for the most value with the most financial security, so that you don't end up treatment without a baby and also having spent all your money. Our goal is that you go home with a baby or you're financially whole.
Thank you, Heidi.
So I love the fact that we are in a company that has a division called Cord Blood Registry. It is the largest newborn stem cell company here in the United States. And because we're associated with Cord Blood Registry, we can give every individual that utilizes Donor Egg Bank USA free cord blood and newborn stem cell protection. So we will cover all the processing for you and the first year of storage. This is a huge value. It's important to me because you're utilizing a donor. You know, I only have access to half of the genetics of my children. And for my adopted son, I have access to none of the genetics. So this is really a benefit if you are utilizing third-party services. And it's even more of a benefit when you start to consider regenerative healthcare and where we could potentially be in the future with utilizing stem cells to cure cancers and COVID and all other sorts of diseases in the future. So, let's talk about some of the common fears, because if you're like me, these are the fears I had. The first fear I had was, will I love this baby? And what I've come to learn is yes. I know so many people that have used an egg donor, and yes, they love their baby. You will love this baby. Can you carry this baby and be successful? Absolutely. The likelihood is that it is your eggs and not your uterus. When I was 30, unfortunately, it was my eggs. It wasn't my uterus. And I just didn't know that at the time. Will everyone know that you utilized an egg donor? Not if you don't tell them. It really comes down to secrecy versus privacy. I'm not secret about it, but I am private about it. It's not something I need to announce, to the school system. So in fact, even early on, I'll say we didn't tell my husband's entire family about it initially. Can you emotionally and physically do another cycle? There is a cost to treatment. Some of you out there have felt that cost. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You can do another cycle. Donor egg is very successful and you can do it. Will you find a donor you like? With more than 250 donors to choose from right now, I'm sure you can, and we are adding to the database nearly every day. And can you afford it? As Becca said, there's lots of different financial plans we have out there. If you're very financially concerned, we highly recommend Assured Refund, multi-egg lot refund plan for that financial protection. And I'm sure we will be able to figure out what plan would work best for your family. So here's a picture of me. These are my twins, Sayla and Caleb. I ultimately went donor egg, and I had these two crappy looking embryos, which I was sure wasn't going to get me pregnant because I had beautiful blastocysts in the past and they didn't get me pregnant. Why would this? But those two crappy looking, vibrant donor conceived embryos gave me beautiful twins. So, what I like to say to people now is that we each have our own journey, but what binds us together is the deep desire to be a parent and our willingness to persevere to make our dreams come true. And I say that to you because it's part of why I co-founded Donor Egg Bank USA. It was a hard, it was a long, it was a tiring and exhausting journey. But if you stick with it and you persevere, you will have a family. You will be a dad. You will be a mom, and you can make it come true. So we thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to go through the questions and answers, but we'll keep this here so that you can get on the website. We do allow you to register for free to see the donors. There's no cost to take a donor off the website. You'll need to contact us. Either you'll do an electronic enrollment or we will enroll you. Basically, we're just going to get your demographic information and some basic information on you. And then we'll upgrade your access to be able to select that donor off the website. The donors are moving quickly. There is a lot of demand. If you see a donor you love, go ahead and select the donor. Sleep on it. You can always contact us the next day and say, oh my gosh, I think I prematurely selected and we'd like to, cancel that match. We'll do that for you. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions, Becca.
Sure. So I'm just taking a look at the chat just to make sure that we hit all of these here. But a lot have asked if we're going to share this. This recording, this webinar has been recorded, and we're happy to share with you.
So I'm going to start us in the Q&A. If you do have a question, put it in the Q&A. It will keep you anonymous. Someone would like to know the logistics surrounding the legal needs on donor egg, and are there any specific state mandates? For us, it's frozen donor egg. So what happens in that process is that the donor has already signed all of our paperwork. Of course, we've had multiple attorneys review it, and she has given up her rights to the eggs. We then have paperwork that you'll complete so that you fully know what your rights are in utilizing those eggs. There is not a need to see an outside attorney, although we always welcome you to do so. There are no specific state mandates when it comes to the legal component. Our attorneys are well vetted in the reproductive world, and they've made sure that we meet every state requirement within our documents.
So we have a question: why do they say fresh is better than frozen? And you know, years ago, before frozen eggs really came to light, you know, fresh was what everyone did. And you know, the statistics show that fresh and frozen have the same pregnancy rates. And so frozen, there's been so many technology advances with vitrification and the use of frozen donor eggs that there's really not a difference now. Frozen donor eggs are just as successful as fresh donor eggs.
So Becca, I'm going to take the next two questions.
Okay.
The first one is, are there any specific areas that I would recommend you consider matching? Yes, I'm actually glad you asked the question. When I went through the process, there weren't many donors to choose from. And I chose a donor that would look like my son from Guatemala. And what I didn't anticipate was how many people would look in my child's face and compare my children to me. And I didn't realize that that would be important to me. So I would recommend you look for a donor that looks like you, is similar in how you look. Now, I got very fortunate. I don't know, call it epigenetics, but my two children look a lot like me. And that's been a real fortunate thing for me. And then the second question we have is, why do these women donate their eggs and use a frozen egg bank when if they utilize an egg donor agency, they can receive a large compensation? There's actually two primary reasons. First of all, when you do an egg bank, the donor can cycle at a time that's convenient for her. She can do it during her spring break. She can choose to do it between jobs, but she gets to control the timing. She doesn't have to try to synchronize her menstrual cycle with another person in that process. And then secondarily, our goal is to find donors that are not motivated by the compensation. We want to be fair, but we do keep our compensation relatively low. We want the egg donor to be motivated by the desire to help somebody in this process, not by the compensation she could receive.
So the next question, I understand blood type doesn't matter, but what about the Rh factor? So this is also goes if you were going to have a baby with your own eggs. Rh incompatibility can happen. This is something that you won't know till the baby is born. If you were Rh negative and the baby was Rh positive, there's an injection called RhoGAM that would be given. And so it's not something that you should be concerned about because your OB is going to follow this closely.
So the question is, do you have stats on how often your single egg lot leads to a baby? And have you ever had more than one baby conceived from one egg lot? So first of all, we looked at the statistics together. For every egg lot, it's approximately 45% of the time a baby will come home. Oftentimes there are frozen embryo transfers that are also in there. So let me restate that. For the initiated warming of the egg lot, 45% of the time you'll have a baby. But the cumulative rate for that egg lot could be much higher depending on how many blastocysts you have. We currently do have several families that have had 3 babies from one egg lot. It does happen.
Do you guarantee the quality of the blastocysts or offer a PGT package? So PGTA package, we do have the additional euploid rider that you can add to either a single egg lot or a double egg lot plan. And then as far as the guarantee, we do have a blastocyst guarantee. So if there's not at least one good quality blastocyst for either transfer, biopsy, or to freeze, we will replace that egg lot at no additional cost.
So on average, how many donors do you have being added to the website? We're currently adding anywhere between 60 and 75 donors to our website every month.
Do most of the eggs survive the thaw? Yes, they do. Heidi, help me with the percent that we have.
It's over 90%. I believe we're hovering around 90 to 92% of the eggs will survive the thaw. But you should go into it with a realistic expectation that that one egg isn't going to survive. Sometimes it will be more. Sometimes all will survive. Again, each egg lot is individual. But you can look at our statistics page, which is online, and take a look. We do provide that information.
My husband and I have gone through the sperm donor process, and I know I had to be screened for CMV and my results were negative, which did impact my sperm donor search. Does CMV matter for donor egg? No. It's different for egg donation versus sperm donation. It is CMV is something that your clinic will test you if you need a sperm donor, but not something that's tested for an egg donor.
So I'll take the next 2 questions again, because I love this one. Why does Donor Egg Bank USA not advocate or encourage PGTA? Love that question. It's because you're utilizing the eggs of a very young woman. Her euploidy rate, meaning chromosomally normal rate, is really high. It's around 70%. So we look at PGTA as often just additional expense added to treatment when you're utilizing already young and vibrant eggs. However, if you're going to use a surrogate, we highly recommend you do PGTA because contracts are such that every attempt you're going to make a payment to her. The second question is, how do we know which clinics will work with Donor Egg Bank USA and which clinics will transfer 2 eggs? So we currently work with more than 280 fertility practices in the United States and Canada, and we are shipping to fertility practices in other countries as well. If your clinic is one of the very few that doesn't work with us, actually it will be Becca that will reach out to them and talk to them. We have never had a fertility practice that has refused to accept eggs from us. We've always been able to work with your practice. And then which ones will transfer to embryos? That's between you and your doctor. We don't get involved in that decision, but that's a conversation to have with your physician.
Do these plans include the cost of fertility medications? No, they don't. The fertility medications are separate, but I will tell you the meds that are used for frozen embryo transfer are very different than that of an IVF cycle and significantly lower in cost. The medications used for if you've gone through IVF to stimulate ovaries for retrieval and for your donor that goes through stimulation is where all the money is for the medications. With an FET, it's significantly less. And just know that that cost, unlike a fresh cycle, if you did have a fresh donor cycle, you would be responsible for your fresh donor's IVF medications. But when you choose a frozen donor egg lot, you are only paying for the medications for yourself, which is very minimal.
So the question is, how often do you receive new donors? And this individual has looked at a number of egg banks and they're having a hard time finding a match. We get donors in all the time. They're going up every single week. Like I said, we're averaging between 60, 75 egg donor retrievals every month. And if you're having a hard time finding a match, talk to the case manager. I mean, if you're looking for one of those hard to find donors, you want someone that is like Persian, they're going to be hard to find. Some culturally, some women don't cycle as easily. It's more of a cultural situation. But let the case manager know we do have wait lists involved. We typically can work with you to find a donor that you'll be happy with.
Heidi, I'll take the next two about the refund plans. So does the assured refund plan or the multi-egg lot refund plan have time limits on them? The contract does state 3 years. We also know that sometimes there are circumstances that arise, and we would take that individual circumstance into consideration. But typically it's a 3-year contract. If for some reason during that time you needed to use a gestational carrier, that could also be approved. I wanted to mention that too, that the assured refund plan and the multi-egg lot refund plan, gestational carriers can apply and be approved for this, for these two plans, and are actually great plans for them. Are these plans only good up to having a baby? I'm curious if having one of these multi-plans allows you to have a successful pregnancy and then use this plan again in a few years to have another baby. So this plan is considered met when you have a live birth. Live birth, or if you went through all 6, or in a multi-egg lot refund plan, all 4 egg lots, and did not have a baby, then that's when you would receive the refund. But once you've had a live birth, the guarantee has been met, and that would be the end of the plan.
And I'll also say that sometimes people will have a live birth and they'll still have like 2 blastocysts in the freezer. Those are yours. You can have them, and then you can come back at a later point, pay your fertility practice for that transfer, and hopefully you'll end up with baby number 2. So we're asked, what does the success rate depend on? Age of the average patient. In donor egg, your success rate is really not dependent on age. It's really just dependent on how fertile is the donor, as well as how good is the sperm, how great that blastocyst is, and the transfer. Like I said, we know that 92% of individuals that persevere will have a baby, highly successful in getting through that process. But 8% of the time, people don't have a baby. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Sometimes it's the integrity of the uterus. Maybe had they moved to a surrogate, they would have had a baby. Maybe had they used donor sperm, they would have had a baby. So there are a few other factors at play. Age is not one of them, thankfully.
Heidi, I'm going to take the next 2 because the one after I think is perfect for you to answer. Is there an easy way to see the new donors that have been added to the database? And when you select a donor on the website, do you only have one day to change your mind? So we are adding new donors to the database as quickly as we possibly can. We do send out emails when new donors have gone up. Heidi, am I missing another way for them to see just new donors?
No, typically the newest donors are going to be on page 1.
Okay. And then when you select a donor on the website, do you only have one day to change your mind? We typically give you up to 5 days to really, talk about it with your partner, think about it, make sure this is the donor that you want to move forward with.
Okay, I'm going to read the next one. I think it's really a great question. I'm going to start out by thanking this person for their vulnerability. It says, I'm worried about casual comments causing me to be upset, such as people saying my baby has physical features of mine when I know they don't because it's not my DNA, or how to respond to strangers and other people when they make an innocent comment that would normally not be a problem, but in this situation would be hurtful because of the donor situation. Yeah, I'm going to start out just being honest. There are going to be things that people are going to say and they'll be hurtful. Um, and I can tell you, I experienced it more with my adoption than with the egg donation. I was at a store with my son and the person said, "Oh, is that your son? Who's the father? He doesn't look like you." And I was so taken aback, I can't begin to say. And I said, "Well, that's because he looks just like his father." And, hopefully he does. He's adopted. I don't know what his father looks like, but hopefully he does. Um, I've had people ask me other types of questions in the grocery store before because my twins don't look anything like my son. And some of these things you just have to let roll off your back. These are your children, and you love these children no matter what. They can be my own natural children. We could have a car accident and they could be deformed, but they're still my children and I love them. So I think in life, people are going to say things that can be hurtful, and you're just going to need to let that go. More often than not, people are going to be loving toward you. They're going to say wonderful things. And the other thing is, people are going to forget that you utilized an egg donor. My parents have forgotten. My brother has forgotten. I mean, they just say things, and it's because these are your family. They don't think about the origin. They just think about the family unit.
Why wouldn't one qualify for the multi-egg lot refund plan and probably assured refund too? So really what we're looking for here, we're looking to make sure that your tubes aren't in what we call hydrosalpinx, which is an infected fallopian tube. We look at your past medical history just to see, what fertility treatment you've done in the past, if there's been any major surgeries. Um, and really just kind of looking at the sperm source as well. We want to see what the sperm sample looks like and just kind of getting a good overall view of what your past OB and fertility history looks like.
Okay. When a favorite donor is listed as no longer available, do they ever become available again later on? From time to time, yes. Call your case manager, just call us and ask, and we can let you know if either that donor is willing to cycle again. But also, if we have more than one egg lot on a donor, oftentimes we'll only release one at a time. We want to see how the eggs are performing, because with the assured refund plan and the multi-egg lot refund plan, we are guaranteeing that you bring home a baby. We need to be confident with each and every egg lot on our website, because in those plans, you choose from everything we have, as does everyone else. So if a donor isn't getting people pregnant, we can't afford to keep that donor on our website. We're going to take her down. So just give us a call, talk to your case manager, and we can see if the donor will be available again.
I know it's a personal preference, but with a one embryo guarantee, not necessarily a euploid, how does one decide how many lots they need? I do not believe that I will qualify for the assurance plans because of my lining challenges. Can you share any advice? I would say statistically, statistics show 2 tries, right, Heidi? Statistics have shown that. But I think the assurance plans really are such a benefit. And if you're worried about your lining, I still would suggest, if it's something that you're interested in, at least apply for the program, have your medical records sent over, let our medical reviewer review them. Many times we collaborate with physicians and clinics, and there are times where they may ask, do you have any suggestions? And our medical reviewer may have some input on that as well. So I wouldn't be scared to look into the assured refund plan until we can really look at all of the medical records and review.
The assured refund plan does usually require a lining, though, and so if you know your line is super poor, I would recommend you get more than one egg lot, get the discount, warm them at the same time. So you're getting the discount, only paying for that treatment once. It will save you money in the long run. And we have had many patients with really poor linings have a baby. Just statistically, it's a little less, but certainly don't let it deter you. And then somebody asked, do we have financing plans? Absolutely. On our website, we work with CapEx MD, Future Family, Carrot. We're working with Stork Club. I'm forgetting a few. Medicard in Canada, but there's several that we work with. We can help you with your financing.
Can we do PGTA with our clinic without having to buy a euploid writer? The answer is yes. We do work with your clinic. Our laboratory director does talk with the laboratory at your clinic, gathers information. We want to know a little bit more about who they use and what their rates are. So you don't necessarily need the euploid writer for PGTA with the plans.
Does the $14,500 include shipping? It does not. Shipping is $570. We will do everything for you. So no worries from that perspective. We'll handle it all.
Someone is asking about finding specific ethnicities and races on our database. And, you know, we do have several freeze clinics across the country, and we are very grateful to have a number of ethnicities and races that we can contribute to the egg bank. So I would encourage you just to continue to look and see if anything, you know, it meets your criteria.
So somebody asked a question about disclosing to your child, you know, and that's really their choice. And, you know, what about in the near future, the child may find out if on their own anyways. So what is making that not anonymous? Here's the thing. With the donor databases, the DNA banks, you know, 23andMe, Ancestry.com, your children are going to know that they're donor conceived. I would highly recommend going into this eyes wide open with the thought of talking to your children about it. I started talking to my children when they were about 2. There's no date in their head that they're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm donor conceived. You know, there will be a day that they'll process it, but I want it to be as normalized as possible. And I really recommend it. But from time to time, we do talk to individuals that will never tell their children. And I feel like it's a little bit of a gamble. You know, that's my own personal opinion. But at the end of the day, you make that decision. You're the parent. You will decide if and when you tell your children, if you choose to tell them at all.
Hi, we are a military family. We move every year. How does your program work with using multiple IVF clinics once you're entered into the guaranteed program? So first, I want to say thank you for your service. And we do have patients that are in the guaranteed programs that have moved. And we will work with you and your clinics and help you find a fertility clinic that works with our guaranteed programs. And we'll work with you on that.
Okay, so can extra embryos be frozen and stored for later transfers? Absolutely, they can. Feel free to do it. And somebody also asked if we have any eggs in our database that were did not have vitrification used on them, and we do not. All of our eggs utilize the latest vitrification technology, which is really successful, which is why we share with you our statistics and why we're so confident that we can offer a 100% money back guarantee program. Let me do the next one too, Becca.
Okay.
This is an individual, and I want to do this because they say that they're already 50 years old. So they only need one cycle. So which one should they go for to save cost? If you can, you could do a single cycle if your fertility practice has it. But I wanted to take this one because there is a patient that is near and dear to our heart. and she just turned 52. She got a special waiver from her fertility practice to continue treatment. And she called me today, super excited. She has a clinical pregnancy. So we're really delighted. Again, it comes back to show you that it's not the age, it's the quality of the eggs is what is getting individuals pregnant.
Do you have a donor program, idea of where to get a sperm donor as well? You can absolutely use donor eggs and donor sperm. California Cryobank would be certainly a recommendation of ours. They have a large catalog of sperm donors, and you can, go to their website and also look for donors there as well.
You definitely should use California Cryobank. They're our sister company.
Yes.
Are there any known negative psychological effects felt by children conceived by donor egg? I'm sure there are. I'm sure there is something that we can find about a negative psychological effect on children of probably almost anything. I would highly recommend you talk to your social worker about this, your psychologist. You'll probably have a visit. I'm sure they have some research that they can share with you. But I'll also say, we're all individual, and just if you find something on one, you may not find it for another. So
if our current clinic is not listed as a partner, is it possible to work together, or would I need to find a local fertility clinic on your list? Absolutely, we can work with your clinic. That's actually something that I would do, is reach out to your clinic and talk with the physician there and the clinical team there, and we'll get you all set up so that we can ship eggs to your clinic. So don't let that be a reason for you not to move forward. We will be more than happy to reach out to your clinic and establish a relationship with them.
So you don't recommend PGTA even if the father sperm donor is in his 40s. What's really important is the conversation you have with your doctor. So if your doctor is recommending this for you, then you should have that conversation with your doctor to understand why. We're not going to be involved in that recommendation. As a rule, we don't find it necessary, but many patients do PGTA. Quite a few do PGTA because that's a decision that they're making with their doctor. And we're going to let the doctor be the medical judgment maker. I don't even know.
So the next two questions are about retrievals on donors. Does it matter how long the eggs have been frozen? Is there any way to tell how many years they've been in the egg bank? And are there any frozen eggs that are frozen eggs left from fresh cycles? So all of the donors that go through retrieval are going through retrieval for the frozen donor egg bank. It does not matter how long these eggs have been frozen at all. And is there any way to tell how many years they've been in the egg bank? Heidi, I don't think we have that.
No, we move through eggs very quickly. Do not be concerned about them lasting in the egg bank. We wish they would, but they don't. Unfortunately, they move quite fast. There's also the question about CMV. CMV is only important if you're looking at a sperm donor, not important with egg donation.
So with the lots on average being 6, and from experience of egg retrieval on average around 13 plus, are you splitting the egg retrievals into 2 lots? So what we do is we only freeze mature, good quality eggs that we know are going to thaw well. And so when a donor retrieves, there's actually an algorithm that we use to break those eggs into what we call lots. So depending on how many eggs the donor retrieves, then we will break them into lots.
So I'm going to tackle the question. If we go with the multi-egg lot plan of 30,000 and get pregnant from the first lot, do we get reimbursed since the first one is only half the cost? So let me just walk you through the transparent truth about the assured refund and the multi-egg lot refund plan. If you pay for these plans and you get pregnant on the very first try and you go all the way through your pregnancy and you bring home a baby from the hospital, you have paid too much. let's just be honest about it. You overpaid. But I like to tell people to jump up and down and scream hallelujah that it happened the very first try. If I could have gotten pregnant on my first try instead of going through 11 devastating cycles of tears and miscarries, I would have done it in a heartbeat. But if you get pregnant at the first try and you bring home your baby, you avoid all of that agony of going through all the additional cycles. Like, who wants to do that? And you got the baby sooner, right? You getting pregnant on the first try is going to subsidize the cost of that woman or that man who is going to go through 4 or 6 tries. They're going to have multiple miscarries. They're going to have a stillbirth. They're going to have a baby that's in the hospital 2 days and then dies. You are going to subsidize all of that cost. And at the end of the day, we've paid all that treatment. We've paid the fertility practice. And then we turn around and we cut them a check for that $30,000 back. That's what this plan is about. It is a risk, but it is the risk worth taking because it's like insurance. You know you're covered, and you're either going to have a baby in your arms or you're going to be financially whole at the end of the day.
Is there a fee if you purchase a lot of eggs and cancel before it is shipped? So if you have paid and the eggs have not shipped, typically, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not a fee. If the eggs have shipped, then there is a fee, a restocking fee. If for some reason you choose a donor and maybe the sperm source has your partner or the sperm donor, maybe you're waiting on genetic testing and you have to choose another egg donor because the genetic testing is not compatible, there's no charge for that. We will go ahead and let you choose another egg donor for that genetic match.
So someone asked, for an ID release donor, is it possible to connect prior to the donor conceived child being 18? And can you connect with other families that conceived using the same donor before then also? Our policy is currently age 18, age of majority, for us to be able to share that information. There is the donor sibling registry out there that could allow you to connect earlier. It is something to consider.
Okay.
Somebody wants to know if they can have more pictures. We're sharing with you all the pictures that we have. You know, you have to remember that the donor's already done her part. She's already had her donation and she's moved on in her life.
There's another question about a sperm bank. Again, we would certainly recommend California Cryobank.
So let me just quickly add a little bit. Why would we recommend California Cryobank? So when I co-founded Donor Egg Bank USA, we were acquired by California Cryobank in 2016. And what I learned about them is so impressive. They have a whole team of genetic counselors. They have 6 people in their regulatory department. I mean, they really do it right. And they're really, they cross every T, they dot every I, and they take a gold standard approach. So I feel like they've made Donor Egg Bank USA the best that we can be. And the sperm bank is also the best that they can be.
What is the age limit to be a donor recipient? That's going to be up to your clinic. Every clinic has a different cutoff for recipients. So I encourage you to speak with your clinic. We do not have a cutoff. We follow the clinic policy for your clinic.
So somebody asked about family limits. We followed ASRM guidelines in 2 ways. We follow it in many ways, but one of them is our donors only cycle up to 6 times. That is the ASRM guideline. The second guideline is 25 family units, and we follow that guideline as well. Somebody says, can you do a second mock cycle if the first one doesn't meet the 8 millimeter lining requirement? Absolutely.
Do we call the main line to get assigned a case manager, and then does he, she remain our point of contact? Yes. Every patient that registers online or that calls our egg bank will be given a dedicated case manager. And let me just tell you, they are so wonderful, and they are there to hold your hand, to help explain the programs to you, to walk you through the process, and they will be your point of contact. You know, you may hear from somebody else, but really your point of contact is going to be that case manager that you have been connected with.
I have the question, can I buy a smaller batch of eggs, 3 to 4? I'm afraid of creating multiple embryos and not worried about the guarantee. It's really kind of funny. Maybe this is the individual. I tackled this question this morning with a fertility practice. You know, yes, you can buy the full batch of eggs. And in this case, the individual wants to warm 2 at a time. They're paying for their treatment out of pocket to the fertility practice. And what I told the fertility practice is go ahead and warm 2 at a time or 1 at a time, whatever the patient is most comfortable with. We need to have a blastocyst within the whole egg lot, so we wouldn't process any replacement until every egg in the egg lot is warmed.
What kind of fertility testing is done on the donors? So the donors that that the clinics see and screen are typically between the age 18 to, some are 21 to up to 32. We don't typically go higher than that unless there's a sibling journey. And they're all have the blood screening and testing for their AMH levels. The doctors go and they'll do an ultrasound, take a look at the ovaries, see what their follicular count is, and then they gather information, see what their you know, their menstrual cycles have been like, any past OB history. Like I had said before, 100 for every 100 applications, only 1 to 2 actually make it to retrieval. So they go through extensive testing and screening, including genetic testing, infectious disease testing, all of that.
So I'll tackle 2 of these questions. One is, how do I select for an open donor? On the website in the donor selection, it is one of the choices that you can filter for. And then also, if you use frozen eggs, then have to freeze the embryo again while waiting on a PGT cycle, does that second freeze impact the quality or the success rates? Currently, about 10 to 20% of all of our warmings are having PGTA done. It's quite a number, and it has shown no impact at all.
And I think our last question is, any coverage on freezing and storing embryos? So I just want to mention that in our Assured Refund program, it does cover the freezing and storing of embryos up until that year, or until the live birth of the baby. So the storage and the freezing is included.
So I'm going to quickly tackle some of these that are in the chat. What is PGTA? Because you've heard us talk about that. What is it? Pre-genetic testing for aneuploidy. Basically, what you're looking for is a chromosomally normal embryo, which should make a baby. And there's an additional fee for that you would pay for your fertility practice for both the biopsy and the testing. Somebody wants to know a little bit about what I think of as epigenetics, and does the characteristics that come out depend on both the sperm donor and the egg donor, and what is the influence of the mom or the surrogate that carries the baby? Epigenetics is what this is called, and it basically means that you're getting one little teeny egg cell, one little teeny sperm cell, right? And it's the female that is going to weave that baby together. And what we've come to see is that the environment of the uterus helps determine which of the DNA genetics get expressed on the baby. So are you changing the genetics of the baby? No. But you're changing what is expressed on the baby, meaning there could be a likelihood or a movement toward one genetic type just because of the environment of the uterus. Somebody wants to know if we have Indian egg donors. We are working on this. If it's something you're interested in, please give us a call. and ask to be placed on the wait list. We are working on this option. Do we work with any foreign donors in Europe? Yes, we do. If there's something specific that you're looking for, we can talk with you about it and try to source the right donor for you. All of our donors are to our standard wherever we cycle that donor. I'm looking to see if there's anything else here that's new. You can choose the donor, and again, in the donor profile, determine if it's a proven donor by just filtering for proven. I think if I remember the last time I was in, there's an area that is called like advanced filters, and it just lets you filter a little bit deeper. We're hoping to make some advancements on some of our search functionality soon, so we're pretty excited about that. Unfortunately, I hope most of you will be pregnant before we get there, but we're excited about these changes we have coming. Do you see anything else that's new?
Not that I can tell. I just want to check really quickly. I think we've covered.
I like the statement, by the way. Lots of definitely related people do not look much like their parents. That's so true. I love that. Absolutely. So if we didn't answer your question, we apologize. We would ask that you give us a call, talk to any of the case managers, and they should be able to help you. We're really grateful that you spent your evening with us. We wish you much success in your journey, and we hope that you will be parents soon, and this journey will come to an end, and you will be busy on the next journey in life, which will be raising children.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
Happy Memorial Day to everyone.
Be well. Bye-bye.